Γεια σας. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to Mariella from Crescenza for moderating today's event, and to our Greek partners for joining with us here. We have Kostas from Nature Friends, Nikos from World Without War, Maria from IPPNW, and of course Karen from Peace Boat. Who's not a Greek partner. And I want to acknowledge the long history of the Greek anti-nuclear and peace movement, particularly to acknowledge Nikos Nikiforidis, a young man who was executed in Thessaloniki in 1951, for simply getting people to sign the Stockholm anti-nuclear appeal, essentially doing what we're doing today. And he was executed for that. Also in 1963, Georgios Lambrakis was a medical doctor and a member of Parliament, a member of the Hellenic Parliament, who brought the anti-nuclear movement to Greece and was assassinated in Thessaloniki. And I want to acknowledge too Panos Trigasis, a long-time peace activist here, who I understand you're organiser of these awards that will happen on Monday in honour of Nikos Nikiforidis.
Are you coming?
I won't be here, I'm sorry, I'll be in New York for the General Assembly, UN General Assembly, but I certainly have my very deep thoughts with you all and with Nikos for the bravery of those who've worked in this movement for a long time. So we're here in Athens as ICAN, the international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons, to congratulate Athens on being the 12th NATO capital city to join the ICAN Cities Appeal, in which cities in nuclear-armed and allied countries, like Greece, reject nuclear weapons and call upon their national governments to join the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. Other NATO capitals that have joined this appeal include Washington, DC, Paris, Berlin, and Rome. And of course, Athens and Greece and Athens as the birthplace of democracy, joining this appeal, I think sends a powerful message to the world about the importance of nuclear disarmament, particularly at this moment in time when the risk of use of nuclear weapons is so very high. So Athens joins 92 other Greek cities, as we've heard, and we saw all these beautiful cities up here, and it's a magnificent video, and just has a real impact because every one of those cities and every one of those houses represents people's lives, and that's all at stake with nuclear weapons. So that's 35% of the Greek population that is rejecting nuclear weapons and calling upon the Greek government to join the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. And they are right to do so. Cities are the primary targets of nuclear weapons. And as I said, the risk of use of nuclear weapons has never been higher than it is right now. This year alone, 5 out of the 9 nuclear-armed countries are engaged in conflict or in serious confrontations. So that's Russia, US, Israel, India, and Pakistan. Of course, tensions continue to rise on the Korean Peninsula. We've had an almost complete breakdown in arms control agreements, with the last one, New START, between US and Russia, about to expire in February with nothing to replace it, which means that there will be no limits on the numbers or the types of nuclear weapons that can be developed. And we will see that the arms race, which is underway now, the new nuclear arms race, will only accelerate from February. There has also been in recent times a disturbing rise in nuclear rhetoric including from very senior political leaders, and nuclear threats, including like loose talk from Russian officials about the use of tactical nuclear weapons in the Black Sea region, from Israeli officials about the use of nuclear weapons in Gaza. And when we're talking about tactical nuclear weapons, some people have the impression that these are quite small, but you have to remember that the bombs that were dropped by the US on Hiroshima and Nagasaki 80 years ago this year, that killed 250,000 people and harmed many more, would today be described as rather small tactical nuclear weapons. Modern nuclear weapons are enormous. They are thousands of times more destructive than the most powerful conventional bombs, and they have unique radiation effects that cannot be confined in space or in time. Any use of nuclear weapons in this region, whether or not targeted at Greece, would cause severe humanitarian consequences in Greece. It would cause environmental devastation in the Mediterranean region and economic chaos as trading routes would be disrupted. Of course, Greece used to host nuclear weapons, US nuclear weapons, and very sensibly had them removed in 2001. But Greece is a member of the NATO military alliance, which describes itself as a nuclear alliance. But I want to emphasise that that is a political declaration. It is not a legal one. There is nothing in the NATO Charter about nuclear weapons. And so that is something that is not a legal requirement for any member of NATO to abide by. And indeed, it is not in the best interest of Greece or Greek citizens to support the use of nuclear weapons, whether by allies or others. It makes you a nuclear target, and it contributes to the danger that is posed to all of humanity and all life forms from nuclear weapons. The latest science, and I'm glad you mentioned, Karen, the week of action on climate, because it is really important that we show the links between nuclear weapons and climate. The latest science has confirmed that even a limited nuclear war using only a small fraction of the world's nuclear arsenals would not only kill millions of people outright through burns, blast and radiation, but it would also cause global climate disruption from sending millions of tons of soot into the upper atmosphere, where it would circle the globe, blocking out sunlight for more than a decade and causing agricultural collapse and the death of at least 2 billion people from starvation in the nuclear winter. A major nuclear war, say between the US and Russia, would essentially mean the end of human civilization and most other life forms. So this is an issue for the collective security of humanity and must not be treated as the national security domain of a select few countries. Nuclear-armed states and their allies like to speak in abstract terms about nuclear deterrence, that somehow it's all about power and balance, that somehow these weapons protect against their own use because the consequences are so terrible that no rational leader would use them. Well, we know that human beings frequently don't act rationally. We also know there have been dozens of nuclear near misses and accidents over the decades that have meant that and the only reason we're still here to talk about it is not because of good management of nuclear weapons or the inherent infallibility of nuclear deterrence, but sheer dumb luck. And we cannot expect luck to last indefinitely. As the UN Secretary General has said, when it comes to nuclear weapons, luck is not a strategy. Added to that, we have the rising danger of the increasing incorporation of artificial intelligence into nuclear command and control systems, which is speeding up warfare, reducing the time for nuclear decision-making, making these weapon systems increasingly vulnerable to cyber attacks, which was not the case during the Cold War, but that is a real threat right now. And this year we had a webinar with Professor Geoffrey Hinton, who won last year's Nobel Prize for Physics for his work on artificial intelligence. He said we have a window of maybe 3 to 5 years before artificial intelligence, which some experts also call alien intelligence, before artificial intelligence reaches the point where it supersedes human intelligence. And he said, if nuclear weapons are still around at that time, it will be as if we have what are alien beings in charge of weapons that can destroy humanity. So this is an urgent matter. It's urgent with and without the AI implications. But with it, it's like a game of Russian roulette with humanity, where normally you would have one bullet in the chamber of 6. With AI, you're adding another bullet to the chamber, so you've got 2 out of 6. And it's a very, very scary situation. And the only way of eliminating the increasing risk that nuclear weapons pose is to eliminate nuclear weapons themselves. There is no other way. That's the only way to eliminate the risk. We're not going to stop AI from developing. There's too many positive applications to it. It will not be stopped, and therefore we have to deal with these weapons. Any country that supports using extinction-level weapons for deterrence is not acting as a responsible global citizen. We need Greece in particular. Greece has played such a powerful symbolic role in the world as the birthplace of democracy. We need Greece to step up on this issue, to exercise leadership. We know that nuclear disarmament is achievable. Presidents Reagan and Gorbachev met back in the late 1980s, and they met in Reykjavik and almost agreed to eliminate nuclear weapons altogether. They didn't quite get there, but they did agree to drastically reduce the numbers of nuclear weapons in the world. There were around 70,000 at the time, and now there's 12,500. Still 12,500 too many, but now we need to go and finish the job. It is achievable. We have a treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons that provides the pathway under international law for nuclear-armed countries to disarm in a time-bound, verifiable manner. Dinosaurs did not have the option to avoid the asteroid that made them extinct. But nuclear weapons are not a part of the natural world that we are doomed to suffer. We can choose to eliminate the existential threat they pose by eliminating the weapons themselves. And of all the global challenges that humanity faces, this is the least complex. Humans built nuclear weapons and humans can dismantle them. What is required is political will and leadership. And thus far, it has been leadership coming from civil society, from cities like Athens and the other 92 Greek cities that have joined the Cities of Appeal, and it is the global majority of nations that have joined the UN Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. Those are the people and organisations showing that leadership. And so we would like to see Greece, again, I say, as the birthplace of democracy, to join the global majority, to take the path of dialogue, diplomacy and disarmament, rather than that of confrontation, militarisation and proliferation. To be on the right side of history and not the end of history. So, thank you.